it's funny to me because I get it all the time now.
Of course.
Like people accuse me all the time, and I haven't really told the story, but so one day I saw like people kept tagging me in this video, and there was some fucking guy, some dumbass that's on YouTube that swears he can spot people that do, PEDs.
Oh, it's probably
And
more plates, more dates.
maybe.
Yeah,
I don't.
that's,
I don't know.
Derek. He's been on the
fucking
podcast
guy,
before.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, I know that guy's doing it because I can see the marks on him and stuff like that. And so he starts they start pointing out because I have like 5 scars on my stomach, like burn, like discoloration on my stomach, and they start pointing at that, and he starts talking about it and making up this whole theory, and it kind of hurt my feelings a little bit because it
It should make you happy.
Okay, so here's the story. I was a little self-conscious about it because, so this is what happened. I was in college. This was my, I want to say sophomore, junior year, going into my junior season. And actually, I think it was after my junior season. So I started getting these, I got like a mole on like my stomach. And I got one like on my hand, and I'm one of those. I'm kind of like a clean freak. Like I shower, after practice right away. So I start scratching it, and then it starts bleeding. So I'm like, fuck, that's not a regular. I thought it was like a pimple. That's not a regular like a zit or something like that. So and then over time, it was like 5 little ones, like tiny. You could barely see them. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna ask the doc. We have a team doctor. I'm going to ask him about it. So I went in for a physical, and then before the season, I asked him, hey, I have this right here. I don't know what they are. So he looks at him, and he goes, oh, these are non-cancerous moles. They're just little bitty moles. It's very, very common. I'm like, shit, not for me. I don't that's common for me. He's like, yeah, they're very common. I'm like, yeah, well, how can I get rid of them? I try to scratch them, and they bleed. And he's like, yeah, you don't want to do that. What we could do is I can burn them off. And I'm like, okay, fuck it, let's do it. Cause hey, spring break was gonna come up. Like I started, I'm lifting now. I got a body now.
Right.
I'm a junior, and I've looked jacked. So I'm like, spring break is coming. I want to look jacked. I want to look good. So I don't get walking around with those. Fuck no. So he's like, all right, I can burn them off. So he burns them off with, I think, nitrogen or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he burns them, and then he goes, hey, those are going to fall off in a couple of days, just give him time. So I'm like, okay. But I was still training heavily during the summer because I was just like an addict of wrestling. I wanted to catch up to everybody, and I wanted to exceed everybody. So this was my time. The summer, that was my time for me to catch up. So my dumbass, I go back the next day. I go to school, and back to the school, and I go in and I go drill. I go wrestle. I couldn't stop. I was just training all summer. So I wrestled, and I didn't think anything of it. I was like, okay, they just burned those, but nothing has happened yet. And so I wrestled. And then later that evening, I'm sitting in I get down, I get in the shower, and I'm showering, and all of a sudden, it's just burning down there. And I look down, and I had like scraped them off. Like, so as soon as he burned them, he said, don't do anything. They're going to fall off on their own. But my dumbass wrestled, and it rubbed up against it, and now they all fell off. So then they scarred it, because now I was like out for like 7 days, like putting Neosporin on it just so they can heal. And then they scarred over. So I have those from just that moment. So then this fucking guy is like, oh, he's doing PEDs. Look, he's got the marks on his stomach. And it hurt my feelings. I'm like, I'm like one of those guys who I'm like, I don't even think about PEDs because my work, even if I don't care, I probably have dealt with someone that was cheating or competed against someone that was cheating. But my work will far exceed all of that. And so when I see idiots online or saying, oh, yeah, I know for a fact he's doing PD, I'm like, have you ever been to fucking Africa? Have you been to Africa? There's a lot of Francis Ngannou's walking around. There's a lot of guys like me just walking around. And because of the work and because of the way that I fight, they're like, oh, no, he's definitely got to be doing something, because they can't explain why you are the way you are, why your performance exceeds what their mind is mentally capable of.
There's a photo of you where on top of the cage after one of the victories, and you're like this, like, and it looks preposterous. Like, if I didn't know any better, I'd be like, that motherfucker's on some shit.
It's
genetics are real, man.
Oh,
genetics are real. This is not, everybody did not get the same deck of cards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. Look at that one. Come on, son. If I saw that shit, I'd be like, if someone said, "Do you think this guy's on the juice?" I'm like, highly likely.
Yeah, adrenaline.
Everything.
And I think this is right after the Masvidal